Greetings. In this video, we're going to be discussing the HOA rider, also known as the Homeowners Association rider, to accompany the contract for sale for purchase of a property. This particular document is used when you're going to be selling a property and there is a homeowners association that is within the community or governs the community, and application to the association is required to live within the community and usually required for the actual sale and purchase of the property from the new buyer. So before we begin discussing about this video, for anyone that's new here, I'd like to briefly explain our company. We are Nizz Realty Incorporated. We're 100% real estate commission brokerage. This means we pay our realtors 100% of their real estate commission. We have $0 agent fees, and the only fee that we charge is a transaction fee upon closing a deal. And we let you decide the transaction fee price or amount. We feel it's better to keep you happy and let you choose what you feel is a reasonable amount to pay the brokerage per transaction and to make sure you receive the best deal. For further information, feel free to read the description below. Visit our website at nizzrealty.com, or feel free to call or email us for further information. Without further delay, let's get into the video today and the contract we're discussing. So once again, this is the Homeowners Association rider, also known as the HOA rider. This is different from the condominium rider, which is used if there's a condominium association. Homeowners associations, also known as HOAs, are different from condo associations. A condo association is, as it says, is for condominiums. Homeowners associations usually deal with the communities that involve single-family homes, maybe villas, townhouses, those particular properties, and usually they're single-family. Sometimes it could be, like I said, a villa or different types of townhouses, whether it's connected or detached living. And there's usually a homeowners association that is, in charge of the community and so forth. An application to the association is usually required. So let's begin filling out this contract. As always in the beginning, you put the simple seller, buyer's information and the property address. Let's fill that out. Once again, John Doe is going to be our seller, and let's say Billy Bob is our buyer today. The next part is the property. You write the full property address, as I always explained before, and I'll explain again. Make sure you include the full property address. Many realtors and individuals, they like to not include the city or the state or the zip code, which is completely unacceptable. The full address is required. So let's use Happy Street that we usually use here, our favorite made-up address. And we'll move on. The next part is the buyer's and seller's initials. For every seller and buyer involved, make sure they initial down here. It's very important, and you cannot have this empty. Make sure they initial this part here. All the buyers and all the sellers. Let's move on to the next part of the contract or document. The next part you fill out here is the name of the community, whatever the community's name is. You can usually get that from the community itself. Sometimes you could do some research online to find the community name. Let's just say here, let's just call it Happy Town, just to put something here. So we'll leave that there. Whatever the community name is, you fill it out there. The next part to be filling out here is over here in paragraph 3. You will be obligated to pay assessments to the association. Assessments may be subject to periodic change. If applicable, the current amount is whatever the assessments are. Usually it's paid monthly, sometimes it's paid quarterly, sometimes it's paid annually, semi-annually. It really depends. Each association is different. Most of the time that I've usually seen is assessments are made every month. These are usually like the monthly HOA fees. Some people call it, the correct term is the monthly assessments or quarterly assessments. Let's say for this particular document in the community here that it's going to be $500 per month. So you write that there. If it's quarterly, you write quarterly. If the amount is different, you write the amount here, whatever it is, 500, 300, 1,000, whatever the assessments are. The next part to fill out sometimes here is if there's special assessments. A special assessment is if the association has their traditional assessments. Let's say for this particular document it's $500 per month, and then all of a sudden they may do a special assessment, perhaps the roof, or let's say in the homeowners association it's usually let's say it's single family homes. Let's say there's a community pool. Let's say they're remodeling the entire community pool and clubhouse area, or maybe there's tennis courts and they're remodeling the entire tennis courts, redoing the whole courts to, let's say, a clay-based court or something of that nature. In that case, they'll do a special assessment to each of the homeowners within the community, and they'll tell everyone usually something along the lines of, we're making these special assessments to fix or repair or remodel whatever it is, the tennis courts, and it's now going to be an extra $200 per month for the next 12, 24 months. That's just an example. It could be a lesser amount, a greater amount. The amount of time could be different. It could be for 6 months, 12 months, the next 5 years. It really just depends on the special assessment. If there is a special assessment like that, that goes on top of whatever the normal assessments are, you would write that here. Let's say that they're redoing the tennis courts in this particular document and contract, and they're charging an extra $100 per month. And you'd write that there. If there is no special assessments, then you'd leave this blank here. There's nothing to put there. Or you could put, you could write non-applicable there for the other things. You could also fill that in here. Or you could just leave this here. You just put a 0 and just put non-applicable if there isn't any. Let's say for this particular contract that there's a special assessment of an extra $100 a month, just to put something different here. The next part here is down to paragraph 6. There may be an obligation to pay rent or land use fees for recreational or other commonly used facilities as an obligation of membership in the homeowners association. If applicable, the current amount is whatever the amount is here. In some communities, what this is talking about, this paragraph, is maybe there's a certain clubhouse of some sort. There could be other things, other amenities. Let's say for this example, there's like a clubhouse that there's maybe an obligation or no obligation to pay the extra assessments to use that clubhouse. But if you do want to have access to that clubhouse and it's recreational facilities, maybe there's like a gym in there or a spa or something, then you would put that here, that the additional amount is this amount, and whatever it is per month, per year. Let's say there's a spa and a gym in the clubhouse that could be used, and the obligation to pay that is, let's say it's $200 per, let's say it's also per month for this. If there's nothing here, you'd fill it also non-applicable and put 0 and just move on to the next paragraph. Let's just say for this particular contract to do something a little different, that there is maybe a spa and gym and clubhouse, and this is the amount to use that facility. You fill this in as necessary. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me and I'll explain further. The next part down here is to just date it and the buyer signs. So just make sure all the buyers date and sign so that they, they initial up here along with the seller, and they date it and sign it here. Let's move on to the next part. And the end of the this document here is the approval. The approval to the association. If association approval of this transaction or the buyer is required, this contract is contingent upon association approval no later than, you fill this in here, how many days prior to the closing. So let's say the property is going to close on the 30th of November, then you want the approval to be done 5 days before closing, 3 days before closing. Usually 5 to 3 days is usually good. You can leave this blank. I prefer to always not leave things blank. That's just my professional advice, to always fill it in if you can. 5 days is usually good. You can make it any longer, 8 days, 10 days. 5 is usually good. 3 is okay. I like to use 5, so we'll just put 5 there. It's completely up to you, what you feel is acceptable and what your clients feel is acceptable. And this is the next part here. The fill-in is when the buyer is basically, the buyer and seller are going to initiate the approval process within the association. So when the buyer is pretty much going to fill out the application and submit it to the association for approval, and it could take, 30 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a week, depends on the association. Each community is different in how long they take. Some take longer than others. Some are really quick and on top of things. This number here is how long the buyer is going to have before they can make the application. So they're pretty much given a time limit. Once the contract of sale is executed, they have this many days to apply to the association. I like to put 3, but 5 is okay. 5 is very courteous. I like to do 3 because I want people to, if I'm executing a contract, I want them to be applying really the next day. I want them to have that already prepared even before the contract's being executed to pretty much apply the next day or two. So I like to usually write 3, but you could write 5 to be courteous, give 5 business days and so forth. So let's just put 5 there. We're being extra courteous today. Payment of fees, assessments, and other association charges. This is where you would write in, as we discussed before in the above paragraph. Let's say, as we were saying that there's an obligation to pay for something like if there's an additional gym or spa or additional obligation of the membership. You filled it out here. There's a special assessment of $100. So let's write down what we wrote here. It's $500 normal assessments per month. So that's $500 per month for, let's just say, monthly assessments. Oops. To, what's the name of the community? I think we called it Happy Town. So yeah, to Happy Town. So you'd fill that out there. That's the monthly assessments. You could write something different here, standard assessments, standard monthly assessments. Monthly assessments is usually good, so that's fine. And then we also said that there is $100 for a special assessment. So let's say $100 per month for special assessment to Happy Town. And then the last part we wrote there's going to be a $200 per month for let's say let's just call it the clubhouse assessment. You could call it maybe something different. Clubhouse fees. It just depends what the community's calling it. For this, we just said it's like the spa, gym, clubhouse. So we can't fit that all there. So in this little line, we'll just call it the clubhouse fees, just to reference that. And then this part down here, if there's nothing else, you could fill this in just to not leave it blank. It's usually where I recommend just write non-applicable. Don't leave anything blank. Fill it in. This next paragraph here is if the seller is going to be paying the assessments in full prior to or at the time of closing. This really just depends on how your contract's going. You could mark the seller if the seller is going to be paying it off, the assessments, maybe the special assessments, there's 12 months left on it. You mark the seller is going to be paying that off at the time of closing. Most of the time that's not usually the case unless something else is negotiated in the contract, like a lower sales price or a higher sales price, something along those lines. Most of the time the buyer is usually going to take over things and be paying the remaining of the assessments once they have possession and own the property. So let's just mark buyer for here. If there's something different going on, you mark it accordingly. But for now, in this particular document, let's just say the buyer is going to take over once closing has commenced. This last part here is the association or management company to which assessments, special assessments, or rent land use fees are due and payable. This is where you'd write that in. I believe like I said, the rent and land use fees that cover this paragraph. This may not be the best area to put for like if there's a special like spa or gym assessment fees. This is for something along the lines of land use fees for recreational. It can be used for recreational like a clubhouse or something of that nature. So we did it right here, but sometimes you fill it out for another reason. Most of the time I really never see that filled out there. It's usually included in the monthly assessments, but we're just doing it a little different in this particular document just to fill in a different scenario. But for this last part, you just put the maybe the name, the contact person, whoever the contact person, maybe the manager of the community, the go-to individual for questions and concerns. You can write the community name up here, Happy Town that we wrote before. And then you put the other person's name here, their phone, email number. If there's a couple people, you put it in here. company has a website, you can put the website here. Usually you'll fill this in. There's usually at least one individual that you could contact for questions and concerns concerning the homeowners association. And that's it for the HOA rider. It's a simple 2-page document, not much to fill out here, but you do want to fill it out correctly. You can do something wrong here and fill it out incorrectly very easily. I'd recommend looking through this video, and just if you have any further questions, contact me and I'll be more than happy to assist. Once again, thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.